Hey everyone, and welcome to the Ceres podcast. In today's episode, I'm joined by Giles Fuchs from Burgh Island Hotel. Giles is a hospitality operator who's been through lots of full cycles, building, losing, rebuilding, and learning what actually matters when the pressure is real. This isn't theory, it's lived experience. We talk about the small moments that quietly decide whether customers come back, including why a single diner can turn into repeat business, referrals, and long-term loyalty if you get it right. We also dig into the harder stuff, staffing costs, policy pressures, and the knock-on effect that operators are hit with. And towards the end, Giles shares a practical mindset that helps him stay steady, not motivational slogans, but a way of thinking that you can use when the stress is high and the decisions are yours. This episode is sponsored by the Ceres Traditional Batter Mix. It's built for operators who want speed, consistency, and a proper crisp finish without overcomplicating prep. It comes in 1.25 kilo bags for freshness and easy storage. The seasoning is balanced, so you don't have to add anything extra. Just mix with water and off you go. And it pairs brilliantly with the Ceres pre-dust and works perfectly well with the 2-litre batter bottle. We ship all across the UK and it's a favourite with fish and chip shops, pubs, restaurants and street food traders who want a small bag with a big result. At Ceres, the goal is simple. Better businesses build a better industry. This podcast is here to share ideas you can use, stories you can learn from, and conversations that respect the reality of running a hospitality business. Right, let's get into this episode with Giles. Giles, welcome to the Ceres podcast.
Hello, Stelios. It's a pleasure to be here.
I'd like to apologise up front. It's how long has it taken to get me to do this thing?
I want to say, is it you or is it me? I'm not sure.
I think it's just it just ends up being one of those things. Like it became ping pong, you know. And my dad had a stroke a couple of years ago, and when that happens, it just throws everyone's life out of sorts, trying to like pin everything. You've got a business that's growing. You know what it's like. You're in business yourself. And
yeah.
But I'd like to say up front, it is. I find interviewing really high achieving people like you hard because you clearly, like, I've done some research, I've read, but you've got a lot of things that you're good at.
Well, I've got a great PR team, Stelios. I'm not sure.
Well, I don't know.
It's like embarrassing.
No, I don't think it's embarrassing.
No, keep saying it.
I think it's pretty amazing. You're juggling quite a few good projects, big projects, shall I say. And I know I struggle with one decently sized project. So.
Well, you say that, Stelios. You've got your batter and your advisory and this, which must take almost all your time, I would have thought.
It does. And I got 2 young kids that need lots of that time too. Yeah. So, but you know, this is what we do, and we enjoy it. And like yourself, you like riding that entrepreneurial train. I take it you wouldn't have it any other way.
Well, no, and I have started thinking. Funny you should say it, because recently I have started thinking about it. I've decided I have a very short span of interest in things, and so you've read, I had this office business, or I do have an office business, and out of that came some money, and out of that we built some other businesses, including the iconic and famous Burgh Island Hotel and
which is pub. Which is going to be our main focus today.
Yes.
I think, you know, one of the crazy things is it's called Burgh Island, but most people probably just think that's a nice name, but it is actually a hotel on an island.
It is an hotel on an island and a pub as well.
And a pub.
One of the oldest pubs in England.
Do you get many passing visitors there?
Sailors mostly. No, but it is famous for being a haunt for people bringing illegal substances, rum and the tobacco in the olden days. And the chap called Tom Crocker who was famously, he was a highwayman stroke naughty importer, and he was shot in the doorway of the pub back in 1780 something.
Wow. Yeah, we've got nothing as glamorous. Well, actually, I won't say it's as glamorous as that, but we've got a pub down the road that used to host Dick Turpin.
Oh, similar. Yeah. We like that. But you're right. It's not. It's an island. It's about 20 plus acres. It's just off the coast of Devon in the South Hams near Salcombe. You know all this, I'm sure, but maybe your listeners don't. It's a causeway island, so it's about 300 meters from the mainland, and twice a day the tide comes in, and you can't walk across. But we have a thing called a sea tractor. Have you looked that up?
No.
Okay. So there's been a sea tractor there since about 1338. And it's, well, the one we have at the moment, which is the third incarnation, has 8-foot wheels and a platform on top, a covered roof, and a tractor engine. And we drive our guests and pub goers and island walkers across when the tide's in, as long as it's not too windy. So it's a real Heath Robinson affair. But during the day, it's fine. You can walk, or we have 4x4s that take our guests across.
I take it you couldn't just build like a little bridge then? That wouldn't be allowed?
Well, that's a good question. Probably not. But zip wires and tunnels have also been suggested.
Zip wires.
I think zip wire for a lot of people would be a lot of fun. But no, I think we'd struggle with planning.
I think it'd be funny, like, oh, I'm just going for a pint. I'm just going to take the zip wire.
Yeah, you can get on, but you can't get off if you think about it.
Well, I can imagine that would be a great excuse, ringing up the missus and saying, I can't come back. The tide's coming. Yeah.
Tide's in, zip wire only goes one way.
Yeah, it's only one way. What was it like the first time you saw Burgh Island? Like, you give us your thought process behind taking on such a project.
That is a really great question. The first question you asked was, what did you think when you first saw it? Well, to my shame, I hadn't heard of it before I bought it. And when this chap showed it to me, it was love at first sight. And if you go on, if you see pictures of it or a video of it, it's just a beautiful thing. And the other thing we haven't touched on yet, of course, it's famous for being Art Deco, and has a massive collection of Art Deco antiques and artifacts. So it was love at first sight. So it went a bit like this. If I might, shall I take you from the beginning?
Go for it, absolutely.
So I'd been invited to be interviewed on the BBC about my A-level results. They started a bit like you, Mr. Fuchs. You've done very well, but you're a bit thick. I got one A-level and not a very good grade. Anyway, because of that, this chap phoned me and said, I wonder if we can have a coffee. So we have a coffee, and I talk about my business, one of my businesses, the office business. And I say, what are you doing? And he says, well, I'm buying this island. So he shows me a picture of it on the TV, and my mouth falls open. And that's the moment I fall in love with it. And I said, I'd love to be involved with that. And he went, no, you can't, I'm fully funded.
Okay.
But I do realise now, Stelios, that he was fishing me in, winding me in.
Oh, I see.
And so a week later, he phoned me and said, would you like to buy it? And I went, yes. So that's how it all happened. It was love. It was coincidental that we'd had some money in the bank at that time, because that's not always the case. And as your entrepreneurial listeners will know, there are good days and bad days. My father used to say, actually, he said, I can wake up with the same amount of money in my bank account and feel rich, and the next day I have the same amount and I feel poor. It's just a matter of how you feel about life at that moment. Anyway, we'd had some money, so I said to my sister, there's this island hotel. It's like our business in London of serviced offices. We should go and buy it. So we went and mystery shopped it. It needed a lot of work. It was not very full. So we bought it.
But I'm trying to think, like, you and your sister are walking around it, or you're sitting in the cafe having a coffee, you're thinking about it. Like, what sort of going through your head? Because it isn't like you bought a hotel that's doing okay on the main part of, the mainland, let's say, that has normal operational logistical problems and had, let's say, high occupancy. It's none of those things. It's quite the opposite. So was it? Did you know that you're experienced enough to know that we're entering something that is going to be a labour of love to some degree?
I my thought was that this was not going to be hard to turn around.
Okay.
So why I felt comfortable buying it is that we are in a serviced, hospitality-led business in London through serviced offices, and in those we have bedrooms and we have cafe, restaurants, bars. So it felt very similar. I found out it wasn't similar, by the way, but at that moment it felt very similar. It was it was a business that had people as its fee payers, like a pub, like a restaurant. The fact that doing up, we developed all our buildings, so doing it up didn't feel threatening to me. The fact that it was an island, a hotel, looked amazing, with amazing history, which we might touch on later, just told me that we could turn this into something absolutely amazing. And perhaps part of my problem is I don't get scared enough. I really was not scared. I was just excited.
Yeah.
I should also say, of course, I hadn't been a hotelier at that point. This is 8.5 years ago, 8 years ago, roughly. The chap who brought me the deal also brought a management company who was going to run it for us. So I was just going to manage the management company.
Okay.
And because of our experience, we were going to bring ideas to the table about improving the operations, the design, the experience, the website, marketing and operations and staff management. And that's why I felt comfortable. I mean, we'll move on to how it wasn't comfortable after a while, but we put in place amazing. It worked really quickly. So we spent immediately over £1 million on making it look really, really nice. We then put marketing in place, which we're luckily good at, have experience at. And we immediately went up to, I'll stop saying immediately now. I'll immediately stop saying immediately. We hit 80%, 78 to 80% average occupancy.
Wow.
Over the year.
That's quite impressive for something that's not actually physically connected to the island.
I think your entrepreneurial listeners will know that to a certain extent, business is business. In a business, there's accounts, there's staff management, there's HR, there's marketing, and of course there's product. But all those things are replicated in every business. And the thing about a fish and chip shop is that it may well be that there's this amazing fish and chip shop that someone only half a kilometre away doesn't know about. So if they knew about it, they'd go.
Yeah.
We just got the message out to more people than the previous owners had got it out to, through clever marketing, through talking to friends, talking to acquaintances, offering deals to people in our buildings.
Would you say that you sort of found your customer base and then hyper focused on people like that? Because I guess you're not aiming at business travelers because of the way it is. So it's people that really want to get away and shut away from their everyday life to some degree. Would you say that's sort of someone that wants a real good break to switch off and unwind? So I guess you then say, well, we need more of those people. So that's where your marketing's aimed at, rather than saying we just want anybody.
Stelios, you're exactly right. We know who our client base is. And we go, well, I'm doing your podcast because I think there'll be people listening who
you want chip shop owners to come and stay there. Is that why?
Exactly. We do hyper focus. What's happening now, of course, is because most of the people out there do know about us. We're not having to try so hard, but we hardly have, for instance, any Americans. I notice your podcast is quite popular in America.
Yeah, so we were talking about this. I don't know. Yesterday, I was doing another podcast, and someone said exactly the same thing. And I'm not too sure. It wasn't intentional. We do have customers in America, but I don't know. It's nothing I've ever done, and I can't. I can't tell you we've done any special marketing to get there, so I don't know.
Do they love fish and chips in America? Maybe
Well, they
do.
do. They do love fish and chips, and I think that it's a business model that they probably love as well. Like it's a business model that they get behind as well. Fry food.
Are there
volume.
lots of fish and chip shops out there?
I'd say in a different format there is quite a few, or at least maybe there's lots of fish and chips sold. Whether it's the same format is a different story.
Oh, I wonder if there's a marketplace out. They love the Brits, don't they?
They do.
If you're listening, the Americans, you love the Brits, don't you? What do you think about fish and chips?
It sounds a bit subliminal. That does. You love the Brits, don't you? But yeah, it's weird. It's just weird how someone mentioned that to me yesterday. Now you've mentioned it today, but again, we've done nothing there. Like other than supply a few people over there, we haven't tried to get them on board.
But I just want to come back to your initial Stelios, your initial point, which is we have hyper focus.
Yeah,
and nor it's a particular band of people. Firstly, who can afford it because it's definitely not cheap. I wouldn't say it's top prices, but it's not cheap. But we don't have many Americans or indeed Europeans. I think we haven't focused on it. But we're also very famous for Agatha Christie having written some of her books there.
Yeah, I saw that
in our beach house, and they love Agatha Christie. I mean, she's the biggest selling author of all time. Yeah. Not just a woman or man. She's the biggest selling author. I'll tell you what has happened, though. We've also been picked up by America. And next week, NBC, the Today programme, are coming to film on Burgh.
Oh, nice.
I know.
Well, that will help, I guess.
I'm hoping.
Yeah. But I wonder if it's just because they don't maybe think... I think most visitors think they want to go where it's quite populated, and it probably confuses them somewhat that there's a break. They're like, they probably watch too many films, and they think, "Oh my God, we're out at sea." But you're not quite.
They probably say, "Well, England's tiny; you can walk everywhere, can't you?" And they arrive in London and realise Burgh's 5 hours away.
Yeah. I think London is really it almost missells the rest of UK because everyone thinks, oh wow, you can get away so get around so easily, you just jump on the tube, and you're like, well, actually if you come to Warwickshire and you want to go to Newcastle or Peterborough, it's not so easy. No. I always find this country is very easy north to south, but if you want to go east to west, it just becomes a bit laborious. But I do think the Americans always make me giggle when it comes to that, though, because they do think of the UK. And to be fair, you can see that it's tiny. If they go on a road trip, it could take 2 days, whereas
we're probably the size of one of their states, probably, aren't we?
Yeah, but the opposite is true in Cyprus. When I visit the family in Cyprus, they're like, "Oh, I'm going to Paphos from Larnaca," and they're like, "Oh my God, are you crazy? It's an hour and a half away," and I'm like, hour and a half? Like, okay. I just drove to Glasgow in England, but anyway, it's fine. Like, I think I could do it. And they're like, and then I remember one day on a Sunday, I had to go to a pharmacy, which was 25 minutes away, and everybody was astounded. I got back and you'd thought I went up Mount Everest. They were like, you went all the way to that area. And I was like, and they were like, it's so far away. And I was like, I don't know. I left at 10 and I was back before lunchtime. And and I guess the opposite is true. We all think where we are is really big, I guess.
I think you're right. I think, Stelios, it shows, doesn't it, clearly how pretty everything in life is relative.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, as is time and space and distance.
Yeah. One question I had is like, you said in one of your... I've read quite a lot about you, essentially, but you said in one of the articles that you don't see yourself as an owner of Burgh Island. You see yourself as a custodian. But what does that do to your thinking process when you aren't an owner and you see yourself as a custodian? Does it give you more of a long-term vision on things?
Yeah, clever you. Yes, I think that is absolutely true. I think that it might be a little bit family businesses, that you are the temporary custodian of your family businesses, and at some point you're going to pass it on to your children. So what you're hoping is that when you pass it on, it's in better condition than when you took it on. So like you, we're an immigrant family. My father came over from Czechoslovakia. My grandfather was about 40 at the time, my father a child. My grandfather did work really, really hard and built a small business. My father took that, did a different business, but added to the family wealth. And then I perceive that my job is to take that, protect some of it for my children. And I think is the attitude that Nikki and I'm in business with my sister, by the way. Yeah. That's why I keep referring back to her. That's why our attitude is as a custodian. I mean, firstly, it's kind of difficult to understand or even conceive that an island is yours because it's a bit of rock that's been there for
Yeah.
100, 200, 300 million years. So to say owner is a bit odd, I think. So we are creating a better hotel than we inherited and a better one than when either we die or we sell it. So, yeah, I think custodian is the right word. And I think the other thing is when it's something so iconic, loved by so many people, especially our guests, about 50% of all guests who come back every year. And to say that we own it when really, I
It
guess to
belongs
a
to
certain
everybody
extent,
in a
they
way.
own it,
Yeah.
it again doesn't sit right. And we have staff on the island who've been there for 20 years.
Okay.
So for us to come in 8 years ago and go, we own it, again, just feels wrong.
Yeah. So do you feel like you're sort of, in a way, you and your sister, do you feel this load then, that you're sort of carrying a load for the next generation, or maybe load's the wrong word, but a pressure to do better or to leave something in a better way for them?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think we do. And interestingly, I think everyone listening, I'm sure, or not everyone, but most people listening will think they'd want to improve what they have currently today to make it better for tomorrow for someone, whether it's their kids or their family, or even they sell it, put the money in the bank and create some sort of fund for future generations. I think we all feel that a little bit. And I think to begin with, when you start a business, then no, because there's nothing there to begin with. You've created it, you've breathed life into it, and then as it grows, then suddenly you have a responsibility. And I'm not sure whether that changed, but I think Nikki and I definitely feel a responsibility. Yeah.
There's an anecdote that I'm going to butcher right now because I didn't
Oh,
prepare for it, and the conversation's gone this way. But I remember someone saying, it was either on a podcast or an article that I read, and they were talking about how the third generation of immigrant or third generation of wealthy people generally like ruin it. And this doesn't sound like that here. And not that I want to jinx it, because I think you're doing really well. But I guess, how do you instill that? Like, how did your mentors instill that in you and Nikki, and how do you instill what you've had instilled in you in the people that are coming after you?
blimey, rather, Stella. That's a difficult one. I think. Well, firstly, I haven't. I still have time to fail.
Let's hope not.
I can snatch failure from the jaws of victory. How's it? It was definitely installed. Obviously, I don't know about my father, but they were immigrants. They were hugely thankful for being allowed in. They escaped the invasion of the Germans. They probably wouldn't have survived that. And so they were hugely thankful. So their initial presentation themselves was to be thankful and work hard and be more English than the English, interestingly. I mean, listen to me. I went to public school and speak like an Englishman. So I think that thanks was my father was born in Czechoslovakia, so he brought that. I think he definitely installed that in us. Be thankful for what you have. Probably wasn't related to where I'd come from or where I was born, but be thankful, be hardworking, do your best, always be the hardest working person at work. And the other thing in terms of the entrepreneurial part was, because my father was also an entrepreneur, and my mother, interestingly, later in life, we used to have, well, they used to talk business all the time at breakfast, lunch, and supper. And we, as kids, brought up listening to that. So we, unfortunately, we are very dull if you want to come for breakfast.
No, I don't think that is
talking about
unfortunate.
business.
I don't think that is unfortunate. I think that's fortunate. Like, I get to take my son pretty much every day to school. The wife takes the little one, I'll take the older one on the way to the office. And I don't know, like, I do end up trying to teach him about profit and this and that, and not just profit, but what I do every day, which is more than that. I think profit's a byproduct of what you enjoy doing. And I think, like, trying to explain to him these little things, because I've got these little passing moments in the day with him, like when he's not playing football or trying to do what he wants to do. So I think that, is it wrong, like, to instill those?
No, not wrong.
No, I don't think so at all.
No.
I don't think it's boring either. I think,
well,
yeah. Well, some may disagree.
Fingers crossed, Stelios.
Yeah.
But I'm the same with my girls are older than yours. They're 22 and 24.
Yeah.
But they both talk about setting up a business, and both have done a mini business plan about a business they're employed at the moment.
Yeah.
They've both done business plans, and they absolutely are convinced that they will set up their own business.
Oh wow,
So
okay.
I think that is part of what we're engendering in
Yeah.
our
That's
kids.
good.
I want to
Yeah.
just quickly say the other side of it, because I've never, no, that's not true. I've not been employed since I was 21. So I set up my first business when I was 21, which was an estate agent in Northampton, not that far from you. And where was I going with that? Oh, yes, talking about the failures that come with entrepreneurism. So pretty well all my friends, a lot of my friends became employed and went up that ladder of corporate employment. And although to begin with, I was earning more than them because I had my own business, it was doing really well. After a while, things didn't go so well. I've had failures in my life. And then they overtook me. And I'm thinking, wish I'd been employed, don't
Yeah.
have a pension, don't have a steady income. So, but then again, as an entrepreneur, you then get back on, you get yourself up, dust yourself down, and off you go again. And then you hopefully catch them up and maybe in some lucky circumstances overtake them. But it is not all we talk because it's motivational, perhaps you and me and others, about the entrepreneurial journey being glamorous and fun. But everyone listening knows those days when you go to bed going, how am I going to pay the bills tomorrow?
Yeah. No, that's so true. Like, and I think, like, I was just thinking when you're saying about your friends, I was thinking if you're employed, you don't really ever go to bed worried. You might go to bed worried about a project, maybe, but you're not going to worry about being paid or are the other team members going to be paid. I spoke about it on one of the recent podcasts that I've not put out yet. But last week we had a problem with NatWest, and a lot of our suppliers weren't paid because this NatWest business profile wasn't filled out correctly, or they needed a bit of updated information. And without getting into it again, they then basically put a stop on all our payments. So then think like loads of people that we were paying didn't get paid. So you spend all of the next day running around trying to redo it all and get on the phone with NatWest and get it all fixed to find out that all they needed was to know, oh, have you got another address as well? And you're like, well, yeah, we've told you this. And they're like, oh, we didn't log it properly. And you think that what that can do to you as a business, because it takes a long time to build a reputation and a split second for it to go sideways.
Yeah, I think you were talking earlier about the load and the impact on us. And although that was not your fault, I mean, it almost definitely was just, or it was a mistake by accounts. Those people who didn't get paid personally would have held you responsible.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've been there too. There too. And when the tax man gives you the tax code for one of your employees, and the employee gets their pay, and it wasn't what they expected.
That's never nice.
It's not your. It is.
No.
It's HMRC, and it's not wrong. Just it's not what they expected, and of course you get blamed. So there is a lot of responsibility comes with employing staff and running businesses and having suppliers who you have a responsibility to.
Absolutely. Coming back to let's say your two main businesses then, do you see, you said that in the beginning you saw a convergence, you thought they were similar.
Yes.
Do you see that now, or what do you see that's different between the hotel and the working in the offices, the office business?
They're not at all similar.
They're not at all similar, nothing at all.
No, that's not true. We talked about the similarity in terms of business and marketing. I think several things that we got rid of the management company that I mentioned earlier. And my sister and I, luckily our London business does really well. We have an amazing management team. We built it brick up since 2009. So we could leave that to run really nicely. Nikki and I went down a year and a half ago and we put Burgh back together in our own image. Nice. We wanted to create what we created in London. So amazing culture. If you can have amazing culture and ethos, your staff take that and they care about every single thing they do. You don't have to manage them because they know that carton in the corner needs to be put in the cardboard bin at the back without you asking them to do it. They know they need to support their staff, their colleagues, I should say, when things aren't going well. They will ask about that. They also know that it's important not to give stuff away for free. And they don't moan. They become part of the whole solution. So Nikki and I went down there, and that was the hardest thing we ever did. Harder than building our business, our first business. taking a business in the middle of its, I mean, it's been there since 1930s, but taking a business and changing it from inside took much more. My sister on occasion said, I don't know if we can do this. And I went, of course we can do it. I am very positive, I have to say. And the end result is we've done it. We've got people in every position now that we admire, respect, and do their job. And the flip side of that, Stelios, is we've solved the culture of leaving. We had a situation over 18 months ago where the average length of stay was 90 days. And in hospitality, that can happen.
Yeah.
But it wasn't what I wanted. And every turn where people said, oh, well, that is hospitality, or that's what it's like employing people in hospitality, or that's what it's like being on an island, I just do not accept anyone's view that is the case. It's about being respectful of your staff in the first place and asking them to be respectful of you and your guests in the second place. So we've done it, and I'm really happy. I mean, it is a great thing that if you can have one thing in your business, it's having a great product. Now, I did listen to one of your podcasts where you talk about cash flow fairly recently. Cash is king. My grandfather always said cash is king. If you know one thing about a business, know the cash. So the one great thing about our business is the 80% occupancy on average throughout the year, and therefore the great cash flow. So we're going to agree with that. And then the only thing then is how you cut your cloth according to your income. Yeah.
And I think your job, I guess, is to serve or have more occupancy, higher occupancy. So what would you say? So if you're at 80% occupancy, what's your minimum? What was the minimum that you'd be like utterly depressed? Is that 80%? Or would you say,
I think it's 78, But I think what you may or may not know, Stelios, is that we only have forget about the pub. We have 25 suites.
Yeah.
And they're all lovely. Everyone overlooks the sea. They're all amazing places to stay. We have 25 suites. And we have, just in the UK, 67 million people. Well, 67 into 25 doesn't go. We should be full every day of the year if, three things. One, the product's right. Two, the price is right. And three, we tell them about it.
Yeah.
Now, there have been times over the years, blips, where our product has fallen short of what it should do. We've hopefully put stuff in place where that won't happen anymore. Our pricing is priced so we can be as occupied as we can. And the third thing, tell him about it. Well, I mentioned already the NBC on Monday they're filming, I think, and talking to amazing people like you who have great reach, who are in our hospitality, our lovely hospitality industry. I think we just need to tell more people about it. And I think it's still bizarre it's still a positive part of marketing that I speak to so many people who've never heard of it.
Yeah. No, I think I find it incredible that people don't hear of certain things. You think, what, really? There's all over the news. But everyone curates their own news now. And this is probably what's different, is that, everyone's got their phone and they're being fed what they want to be fed. So it's hard to break through that noise, isn't it? I'm starting to get a little vision, though, that maybe your sister is the realist and you're the idealist. And then together you both push through.
How very dare you.
I don't. She sounds like a bit more sensible and cautious, and you're like, "No, we can do this." Like,
you're absolutely right. We recognise our talent. So Nikki is, firstly, she's the most empathetic person. But you should interview her. Really, she is the most empathetic person you'll ever meet, and she cares about every single person in her life. That's not just business. That's everyone she meets everywhere. To give you an idea, she was in Rugby Town Centre and a scuffle broke out between a girl and a boy, and she got in the middle of it and stopped it while all the men around were watching. But she couldn't walk past something like that. She's just who she is. So yes, she is empathetic. She's also very detailed. You may or may not have picked up, but I'm not hugely detailed. I am, as you said, I'm broad brushstroke. I'm strategy.
Yeah.
But then I can put the key parts in of the strategy, but then I would ask people to take that strategy and fill it out and then manage it. And then I can manage the information that comes out of that strategy and make sure, like, for instance, now we were down for a year and a half in Burgh. We now go down for 3-4 days every other week, because they're running it so well. And in those 3 or 4 days, we ask the manager questions about things that we know are the key levers of making it work properly. But yes, she's detailed operations. I'm strategy, money, marketing.
Yeah. You argued in another thing that I read that heritage and luxury elevate each other, and I think that's sort of true. But what is the most concrete example that you can think of that where that works for you at the Burgh?
What's for us?
Yeah.
Well, we have lots. Quite easy, that one. We have lots of Art Deco and period events. So we have quite a few murder mysteries when we bring on actors, but that's important. We have 3 restaurants. We have the pub, very casual. We have the Nettlefold, more casual dining, but in the hotel. And the other restaurant in the hotel is a ballroom where you have to wear black tie for dinner. So I guess that's quite a good example of what you're trying to look at. You have to wear black tie if you're in the ballroom. We have live music every night. You don't have to dance, although if I'm there, I do get you up to dance. Most people say no, actually, particularly my girlfriend. But that elevates the hotel because people go there for that nuanced nostalgia of the 1930s. And in fact, Portillo filmed his train journey. He popped off and came and did a bit of filming with us. And he said this is the only hotel he's aware of in the world where you have to wear black tie for dinner in the ballroom. So I think that obviously elevates the hotel.
Yeah, absolutely.
And is a really big draw for a lot of people. I am so nostalgic. I love dressing up and going to a ball or a black tie dinner. I just love it. So I think there's a very good example.
I hate the idea of what you just said, but I actually think I'd enjoy it at the same time. I think there's a part of me that understands that in that environment, I'd probably really enjoy it. And I think it's one of those things where you'd probably just go with it and think, you know what, that is really good fun and really enjoyable. And I think we're so casual today that actually we need a good excuse to look smart and get dressed up, you know?
There's not an unhappy person on the island, let's put it that way. So I think
they get knocked off.
Yeah, well, that could murder mystery, not so. Yeah. But yes, when you go there, it's not just the dressing up, of course, because it's about lounging around in sun and reading a book, and we have a landlocked pool of about half an acre. You can swim in seawater. It's when you drive into Bigbury-on-Sea and you first see the island, you can't help but smile. It's just awesome. And then you pick out the hotel, which is this the Great White Palace, as one of the owners of Burgh previously called it and wrote a book about it. You see that floating basically in the Atlantic, and then you see the pub and you see the massive beach when the tide's out. I think it's just a happy place, and something happens as you cross the beach as well. And I'm not keyed into the universe at all, but apparently the island is on a ley line.
Okay.
And people who feel those things feel this energy on the island.
Do you think it's a bit like? Do you think it's just a bit like that could be true to some degree, but do you think it's also like that physical aspect of letting go and going on holiday?
Yes.
Like, your brain is preparing. Like, it's like, you know what? I am going to have a good time here because I'm away for 3 days. I've physically left my homeland physically to some degree. I know it's only a couple of 100-meter walk, but it's not the point. Like, maybe that just helps to like let go, you know?
I think metaphorically you're probably right. I think you go across the beach and you're leaving your woes behind. And what helps is there's no TVs in any of the bedrooms.
Wow.
And we on purpose turn the Wi-Fi down. No, that's a joke.
Okay.
We don't. But
mate, my kids
signal
will be kicking your door in, like, yeah. But no, and what are customers' expectations then? Like when it does come to like Wi-Fi and that sort of thing. Like obviously, because if there isn't TV and they're on the toilet and they're trying to scroll their phone and it's not working, and obviously do they have an issue with that, or is that just like, you know what, it is a problem, but you're on holiday, sort of thing?
We're so no, it's not a problem.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure occasionally when people have to have a work call or something, then,
Yeah.
but we actually have Starlink.
Yeah, same, yeah.
So we have 75 gigabytes a day. So we isn't the problem anymore. It definitely was a problem. If the wind blew up, if the wind blew, it would shake the line of sight receivers, and it would be intermittent. No, it's not a problem. And you're coming there to unwind and to listen to great music. And dance, maybe, and eat,
have a good time.
Have a good time, relax, eat a bit. Yeah,
I almost feel like leave your woes behind you, and the phone is woes.
Woes can be woes. Yeah,
like, you know, it reminds you of what's going on at home or what's going on in the world, and actually just go and have a good time.
It might be worth just touching. You mentioned going back some time now about the logistics of an island.
Yeah, that's what I was coming back to
stuff
that. Yeah,
on and off. And when we took over from the management. They were having everything delivered on the mainland. Mm-hmm. They then had to find time and people to go and collect it. This is food, laundry, drink, gas, rubbish, you name it. Everything that's been delivered there, we were collecting it and taking it over. The cost, if you just think about the cost of having enough people employed to go and collect it and bring it back, was mad. And they always said, well, people won't deliver to the island. Well, guess what? They're all delivering to the island now. No, the logistics is that they have to come when the tide's out. But we know for infinity years in the future when the tide is going in and out. We know when it is. So each week we give them a slot of when they can come across the beach. And the beach, when the tide is out, it's like concrete. And we have
so it's not soggy.
Very firm. You need to stay on a particular track, but it's like it's like a road. We have scaffolding lorries.
Is it like the beach at Weston-super-Mare? That is just solid. That is.
I haven't been there.
Yeah, you don't see any water there for miles. No, but so before there was like, maybe it was just a communication issue then before. Surely it was just, well, no one asked, so we didn't do it.
Maybe I think it was two things, if I may. I think one, when it's not your business, spending money to get it done doesn't necessarily push you to solve the obvious solution or the obvious problems that are in your view. So I think we weren't operationally involved. I would ask, can't we get people over delivering? And they say no, they won't come. So I think that's part of own your own business. And all of us listen to your podcast, pretty well own our own business. We're about hospitality, not the corporate, aren't we? Mostly. Yeah. So I think we all understand that. And even when someone is making a decision who is employed by you, you need to make sure that it's checked and talk it through. We have our family and our business motto is confer and triumph. So everything is allowed to be debated without emotion. You're allowed to say anything stupid you like. Would this be a good idea? And then you discuss it backwards, forwards. And then you get to the right decision, which is actually they will bring the stuff over.
Yeah. And it's weird because as you're saying that, I'm thinking about a delivery that we made the other week, and it's behind a petrol station, and the lorry driver wouldn't go because he felt like it was a health and safety risk. And I'm sort of thinking it was just a warehouse behind a petrol station. And then we had another one last week where it was a small alley, and I guess it was tight, but 18 tonners can get down there. And the lorry driver was like, no, it's a bit tight, I'm not going. And he just refused to go down it. And he said there was puddles. So I'm starting to wonder.
I think it would be dangerous for you to draw me on making a comment about that.
Yeah.
So I'm going to steer clear. But it seems to me, if he can turn around at the bottom safely, it seems perfectly reasonable to drive down there.
So when guests come, do they park on the main island? Yeah, they do.
On the mainland, we've got car parking.
Yeah.
And we collect them either in our 4x4s, or we collect them 4x4s, take them down to the sea tractor, put the stuff on the sea tractor, drive them across, have another 4x4, drive them up to the hotel.
So from the bottom, let's say, then how far is it to the hotel? How long does it take to get to the hotel? From
2 minutes walk, 3 minutes walk.
Okay.
We're just very high end and like to spoil our guests.
It feels nice though. It feels nice.
Get a nice car and drive them up.
It feels like the Maldives, but in Devon.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Well, with climate change, obviously, Stelios, it's getting more and more like the Maldives.
So you mentioned earlier, though, that you also had a high turnover of staff, and then obviously with these sort of logistical challenges, let's say, how did you turn that around? Because obviously, like you say, it's hard enough for hospitality anyway and tourism. So what sort of things did you do to turn that around to make people want to stay and make a life there or career there?
That's a good question. Well, number one, we bought a hotel on the mainland for our staff
Okay.
in the village. So they actually have a better view than, well, they have as good a view as the guests on the island because they're looking at the island. So we have ensuite bedrooms. We have a massive sitting room with pool and table tennis. They have a massive kitchen ensuite, so I think I said, and they have a garden where they, well, in fact, one of our staff likes to grow stuff. So they're growing stuff. So that's number one. Number one, we've created this amazing place for them to live. Number two, I think it is about respect. Everyone in business should understand that even if you're the boss, you're only one cog of the wheel. In most of our businesses, if you leave, it continues to run for a period of time. Mm-hmm. I mean, if we take accounts and stuff out of it, which will run itself, you have an accounts department. And that bearing in mind that your business wouldn't work without a receptionist, wouldn't work without housekeeping, wouldn't work without even your suppliers mending your deep fat fryer. Mm. Everyone should treat everyone if that's the case. And being careful what I say, that did not happen in our business. And that's why we went down there in the end. So we are respectful of every single person, from the pot washer to the front of house concierge. We treat them all the same. We also we made everyone, we have 75 staff there at the moment and 95 in the summer, would you believe? So we took out what appeared to be the divide between certain cliques. So there's now this mutual respect. We put in better training. We put in a better tip trunk system, which they manage themselves now.
Yeah.
Or about to manage themselves. And I think also me and Nikki going down regularly and showing that we really care helps them to care.
Yeah.
So I think it's not one thing; it's a whole plethora of a raft of things.
How do you go about training staff to deliver calm and luxury in a place that's logistically intense?
Well, the way we did it is we shamelessly went out and employed really good people who knew what they were talking about.
That helps.
So our manager, our F&B manager, our reception manager, our assistant F&B manager, our senior waiters and waitresses are top level. And then the other thing I think has changed, that I missed out earlier, is we've delegated the responsibility to the heads of departments. It's your responsibility that your team is trained. Yes, we're happy to pay for any training you want to. Recently, one of our, not the senior, but the second senior assistant, cocktail bar girl, won a national competition. And we paid for her to go and do that. But she won. So I think having that ability to let them manage and look after and be responsible for their staff and their budget has made that change. Now they want to train their staff. And also, the other thing is, if you've got people leaving every 90 days, training them is irrelevant because the next person isn't trained. But now I go down and it's the same people month after month.
That must feel nice.
Oh, my word. I've gone from the most stressed person in the world to the most relaxed person in the world.
Yeah, I bet. Well, yeah, because if you go in and it's like, oh, who's this chap then? Oh, this is John. And then you go back next time, it's like, oh, who's this chap then? Oh, that's Bob. Yes. Whereas if it's, oh, hi, John, how you doing? You go back a few months out. John, how's it going? You pick up with a conversation. That's much nicer, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, we're going with them to the head of the department Christmas party.
Nice.
Well, I'm not sure I'll behave much now. I think we outrageously behave. Not nice. No, but yeah, we are totally involved in the society.
You said that another interesting comment somewhere. Well, at least I'm paraphrasing. You said that boutique hotels are structurally better placed for like ethical travel. What do you think boutique hotels can do that, let's say, just independents or chains struggle to sort of portray?
Um, I think I'm going to say boutique, meaning independent, if I may,
Yeah, yeah,
rather than chain. I think that if I'm comparing it to, say, I mean, a Travelodge or maybe even the Ritz, I don't know.
yeah,
Then when you go somewhere boutique and individual, a lot of your staff are local. A lot of your food is local. A lot of the habits that go on are local. So I think and if you go out where there isn't much, you're going to go and see you're going to go to Dartmoor. You're going to go up the Dart. You're going to go and see maybe Agatha Christie's house. You're going to see the countryside. You're going to visit the local pubs, all of which are essence of that area. So I think that's really what I mean. You're getting a much closer stroke view. It's like going to a European country and staying in someone's house rather than going to a hotel because you're just separated from the society.
yeah. And another thing I read, which was quite interesting, was that you see a lot of solo travelers. And I sometimes travel a lot for business, which means I'm on my own. And I know sometimes I go to a restaurant and they all talk a good game, but they really do turn their face up when they see one person coming in. And I remember one place I went to, it was in Dartmouth a few years ago. And I went in on my own, and the guy was like, "Well, we're really busy." It wasn't very busy because we're going to be. Yeah, it was like we're really busy, and I don't know if we've got a table for one. And I looked around, and I think the restaurant, it was probably 80 covers or something, and it wasn't. Again, it was probably like a quarter full at most, but that doesn't mean he won't be busy. So I give him credit there because it doesn't mean he won't be busy. And I just said, "Look, there's me. I probably eat for two anyway." And
not anymore, Stelios.
Not anymore, no, but I did. I'll probably eat for two anyway, and I'll be out of here in like 45 minutes when you're saying you'll get busy. And anyway, I was there for about an hour, and I left, and it was still a quarter full. And I was thinking,
slightly annoying, isn't it?
Yeah, and I just thought, and then obviously I'm sitting there thinking, I wasn't rushing, but I was thinking, I want to see what happens here. I want to see if genuinely they do get busy. I mean, that's why I sort of hung around 15 minutes, really. I just thought I'll have a dessert or something.
Do you think that's more about the individual? I mean, I think you might be able to go in the same place and someone welcome you and go, of course we'll find you a table. That's a personality. Or someone maybe who's had a bad day, or lazy.
It could be. I don't know. Or he's got a tiff with the management. You don't know. Like, you don't know what's going on in people's life, but I just think the word hospitality means hospitable. And if you're a quarter full, and it was like February, and you are in Dartmouth, you look around and you think there's nobody else really knocking about. I'd just be like, come on in, we'll sort this out. We'll deal with this problem the other problem when we get there. Like, and I think, again, my dad, I know it was fish and chip shops, but he would always do anything to accommodate a customer. And a friend of mine who's taught me a lot, he says, look, the more customers you serve, the more money you make. So if you can be hospitable, do it.
And Stelios, if they come back.
Yes,
if they come in once and you treat them. I mean, I think Indian restaurants. I don't know how many listeners own Indian restaurants on your podcast. They are brilliant. Well, anyone goes to your restaurant, your fish and chip shop. It doesn't really matter, actually. Any industry, any business, and they're treated well. The chances are you've just gained a customer. It makes no sense whatsoever that if a single traveller, a single person comes in for something to eat, you don't treat them equally as well, because if you look after them, they might well bring their family, and they might bring them back regularly. So it would make no sense. In fact, I had breakfast at the hotel last week just to check everything was running smoothly, and in the corner was a single traveller on their own having a very lovely breakfast, and they were being looked after magnificently, I'm glad to say.
I just think that especially if you're a business person, you generally travel on your own, or if you like solitude, you're traveling on your own. You're going to end up telling people. Because I think if you're getting great service as a singular person, which is harder, I think, because everyone's there for different reasons. I think you're going to go and tell people. Whereas I went to this place and straight afterwards, I told people the story.
And there you go.
And I think they've missed a trick. But like you said, it could be that it's not official policy. It's just somebody who's feeling a bit grumpy. And these are the things. This is why training's really important, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah. I can't believe it's official policy for anybody, surely.
No, it just doesn't seem logical to me.
No,
And
exactly.
also you'd argue that, that a solo diner would probably be in and out faster as well.
Yeah,
So they're not literally taking up like an hour's worth of time, but even so, they're ordering food and they might be treating themselves too. I don't know. I just think
and
it's short sighted.
how many places are 100% full?
I just think it's not
Yeah,
possible.
I think he had a bad day. Let's or
Yeah, no,
her, whoever it was.
absolutely.
They had a bad
Yeah,
day. Shall we
and
say.
there's other places where I've been to as a solo diner, and you'll go in, and it's they do make you feel welcome. They're like, "Oh, we don't have any tables," and you can see it's full, and they're like, "Would you like to sit at the bar?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'll
Yeah,
sit at the bar." Like, I just want to eat, and
yeah.
I like the busyness. I like seeing things, and so yeah, I'm happy there all day long. So I just think I think you're right. I think the way you treat singular customers can really build group customers for life, because they're going to bring their family, they're going to bring their friends, or they're going to tell their friends. And I don't think we think like that anymore in business. We forget that there's a knock-on effect or a daisy chain.
The unintended consequences. As I was preparing, as you advised me to do for the podcast, I was thinking about interesting things. And I think unintended, and if we ever get onto politics, we probably don't have time, but the unintended consequences of what's on that happens to someone, we talked about that, they don't come back, or if we talk about the government.
Well, I think that's where I was going to next, and I think
Right,
because I
good.
think as rosy as it is and as hard, you and your sister have put your neck on the line to build
We
something.
have.
Like you've gone out there, you've took risk, and you've put collateral assets to buy another one. You've lost sleepless nights. You pay staff pay mortgages. You're doing something that really benefits the economy. What do you think at the moment? What?
Bear with, I have a list.
We should have started this at the beginning.
I hope you have influential people listening.
Probably not. We did have a shadow business minister on a few weeks
You
ago.
did.
I could
The
forward
MP.
him on to him. I'm sure he'd love to pop round and say hello.
I think he probably knows.
I,
The problems that we are all. I mean, I go to round the table discussions with hospitality in people like us regularly, and they all the same things come up. Number one, if you keep increasing minimum wage to catch up that everyone is earning an amazing wage, you've got salary compression. So it means that the people doing a more difficult job are being paid the same as the people doing not quite as easy a job, quite as hard a job. The end result of that is people go, well, why do the hard job when I can do less hours for the same money?
just to be like devil's advocate here, the government in question, I don't want to make it Labour or Conservative.
Just try not.
The government in question would probably say, well, you let this compression thing happen. You should pay the people that are coming in a higher rate, and then you should pay the people that are better a higher rate. So that disappears. I'm trying to be devil's advocate here.
Well, you carry on. You're going to be in a very hard position to do that, I think. Of course, if someone asks, it's a bit like the famous question. They used to call it $64 million question, didn't they? Have you stopped beating your wife? That one. Do you remember that? And the answer is yes, which implied that you had been beating her, or no. You perhaps can't. You might have to edit this out, Ceres, I'm thinking. Or no, which suggests you're still. The point is, everyone wants to pay everyone loads and loads of money, but you can only employ people if your business works. So the absolute rationale about what you can pay people is how much you can afford to pay them. If the government pushes up wages to the extent that the chef is being paid the same as the bottle washer, then you're not going to have any chefs. I mean, I'm exaggerating to make a point. Or the alternative, which I think is happening at the moment, because we've lost, 200,000 jobs in hospitality in the last 12 months, you try and get less people to do the same job. And that impacts employment. We've got massive unemployment at the moment. And I did notice, I don't know how political you're allowed to get on the show, I did notice in the paper today, in the paper yesterday, Reeve denied that putting up national insurance. I guess that's
I saw that today, yeah.
The job losses nothing to do with national insurance. Well, and then we had the Bank of England saying today they are absolutely to do with the extra costs you put on businesses.
Yeah.
This is not difficult shit.
That's
Sorry,
fine.
excuse my
No.
language. This is really straightforward. It's not even economics. It's about running your household, isn't it? So yes, it's a lovely. And we started this bit of the conversation about unintended consequences. I am absolutely with Rachel Reeves. We'd like to pay people more money. I'm absolutely with Rachel Reeves that if we take money off businesses and that's the tax and the business rates, which are also going up, and the 5% tourist levy and all that, and we take that off, and we can look after the poorest in our society. Absolutely, absolutely. But that doesn't mean we have to look after everybody. And those taxes, it feels like at the moment, are funding a number of people who have decided that they're not ever going to work. And that means we can't afford to pay our stuff, because if you're taking money off us to give it to them, we can't pay our stuff. So it might be okay, well, no, it would be okay, minimum wage to go up and maybe some of the other things. But if some of it stayed low, we could afford to pay staff more money, more overtime, have more staff. But it's and I understand also it's a thin line for the government, particularly the Treasury, to walk between gathering tax from the companies and individuals and letting those people be successful. I get that. But if you take too much money off the people listening to this podcast so that they close, that's between 1 and 50 people, 100 people out of work, then you don't succeed. And that's where we start looking down the unintended consequences, which, as you can tell, I feel fairly heightened.
Yeah, no, it's something, because anybody in business now, I feel like they don't want risk to be rewarded. And if it has been rewarded, they're penalising you there too. They're stopping you from doing this and doing that, and it just feels like all these little levers they're pulling and choices. Ultimately, they're choices they're making. It just feels like, can I be bothered? I've got a friend of mine that says, he was looking at buying another fish and chip shop. He's got a good high turnover fish and chip shop, and he was looking at a second one, and he said, what's the point? He says, I do all right now. When I look at the effort and stress I'd have to do to get another one on its feet, what would it bring to my life right now?
He's going to he might be risking his house.
Yeah, well,
he might be raising debt mortgage on his house to invest in that. So I agree, and I think so. It's a bit of a difficult one. It's a bit hypothetical, philosophical, but it is clear to me that these people in government, whichever flavour, are not stupid people. Now, I think a lot of people said to me to begin with, they must be really, really stupid to do these things in the last budget, when they came to power in the last budget. And I said, no, I mean, they're not stupid. They know what they're doing. I think we just think they're doing something else. But I think we just need to reanalyse, and we might accept it, by the way. We might accept that what they're doing is the right thing, but it's not what they say they're doing. So given that they are academically clever, they've not all, I don't think any of them, or certainly not many of them, have worked in where we are, real life businesses, putting your house up, your mortgage up, personal guarantees. I'm not sure many of them have done that, so it's difficult perhaps to understand the stress of that. But given they're clever, this is something they're doing intentionally. And that does open up a whole different conversation, which is not for today.
Do you think it'd be better if they said, here's our goal, here's where we want to be by the end of our term, this is why we have to make the choices we're making so we can get to that? Do you think people would then look at that a bit better and say, okay, well, we'll go with this because we're going to get there?
My answer to that is yet another story, I'm afraid, Stelios.
Yeah.
When Nikki and I set up office space in town in 2009, and we started to grow, we consciously said we will fail or succeed, but at every decision we'll be honest, and we will tell the truth even when it isn't in our interest, because that will garner trust, primarily garner trust, and also might garner their help, of course. we have a situation now where, whether it's the Conservatives or whether it's our current government, we have very little trust. Well, I guess I'm only talking for myself, so I can't force other people. I have very little trust. When she tells us we might have to put up income tax, I'm thinking, well, at least that's a sound idea to balance the books. Because she says we have this massive shortfall. And then we find out that actually a month previously she'd been told that she had only a tiny bit of headroom, but she definitely convinced me that we had a black hole. That's where I was, and then we found out we didn't.
Do you think, to some degree, I feel like they'll say what they need to say in order to make the choices they want to make?
That's what she did.
And that's what she did. And I think, maybe.
And I think if I'm being philosophical about that, I'm going to put the other argument forward. So in life, when you're trying to make big changes, so I think they're trying to make big societal changes that they're not talking about, but that's what they want to do because that's their ideology, and they're allowed to have that. And I defend to the death their right to have that, but they haven't told me about it. And that's your point, which is should they tell us? Yes, they should. But if we look at big changes, and I obviously not advocating this, but you look at the change in Northern Ireland back in the 70s, you think about South Africa, you think about regime change, I guess. And there are people out there who've talked and talked and talked, and they are not being heard, so they do bad things in the name of good, what they perceive to be the right answer. And some of that sometimes is actually killing people. And no one condones that. The end result is, though, if we look at South Africa and Northern Ireland, the end result is, in terms of being self-managed in Northern Ireland or South Africa, having ANC chap, for his name, Nelson Mandela, coming and becoming president. The end result was, it was a success. It's not what we'd choose. You're biting your thumb as if I'm going down the wrong line.
Just listen.
Edit it out. And perhaps, if in a less way, we take the current government who have a view of societal change that they absolutely believe is right, but they can't tell us. Now, they're not killing anyone, obviously, and they're not terrorists, but they are not telling us because what they're doing is so right that they're allowing themselves to lie about it to get to the end result. I'm going to be banned from every podcast in the world.
But I think it's true, and there's a lot of business frustration. So, for example, a few chef restaurant owners in Dorset, they rang me the other day, a couple, and I'm hoping to get one of them on the podcast. And they've essentially started a campaign to ban Labour MP.
Oh my God! Yes. And there's they've a load of restaurants now. It started. I want to say it started in Surrey or somewhere.
Bournemouth.
Yeah, no Labour MPs. That's hysterical.
And I get their point. Like, they rang me the other day and like, what do you think, Stel? And I was like, look, a little bit of chaos goes a long way. And I get the point you're trying to make. Do I agree with all of it? Probably not. I don't have to. I'm not a leader. But I get the point. There's frustration, and there's a lot of people in hospitality and tourism, especially, that think the VAT rate is incorrect and think that the levies are not good for business. And I think, how much tax can people pay?
Well, yes, and the truth is, well, depends what you do with the money. It's a massive discussion, this. So yes, take the money off me if we're going to spend it on the needy in our society, and all the education is a big bent of mine. But yes, if we're going to do that and look after people who are needy and make our society better, then we should do that. But if you're taking a pound off of me and making it worth 50p because you're inefficient in your spend, or you spend it on the wrong things, then I'd much rather keep that pound in my pocket and give it to a fish and chip shop for my fish and chips, and they will spend it more sensibly.
Yeah. I guess then you choose with your spending what you vote with your feet almost. Have you noticed any differences in customer behaviour since the last two budgets? Let's say, not to say that everything was swimmingly pre-election, but just have you noticed anything different post-election?
Not for, and you mentioned earlier something I said about heritage and high end. I think the thing about having amazing, fish and chips, for instance, which are absolutely fantastic. You mentioned, I think you provided batter for Chewton Glen, for instance. And I think the high-end values are a lot of pensioners whose income is fixed. And for us, wealthy people, we have quite a lot of celebrity as well. I think for them, they've got their income and they're going to spend it how they like. So we've, fingers crossed though, Stelios, we've been not yet impacted.
It does feel like that every financial sort of grouping, that everyone's trying to get the most out of their money, and whether that means the best fish and chips or the best steak or the best supermarket food, whatever their budget is on, they want the best available for that budget. That's what it feels like to me. So I guess that does filter up to you too, that they may not go somewhere for a couple of months but then really treat themselves to come to your place, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it's difficult to see the impact yet of her budget because we haven't had our first pay package since after then, and we're all first year accounts or whatever. But I think the discussion about the pressure that it's going to put on our disposable income does control how you feel about life. And going to my father's point, I could have the same money in the bank and feel wealthy, and then the next day have the same amount and feel poor. For me, for instance, they insisted, the electricity company, that I installed electricity meter, an instant meter they can read. What's that called? For a smart meter. And I, for some reason, I don't know why, I was against it. But now I look at it every day and think what I can turn off. So even we are all impacted by that sense that there's no money, there's a black hole, interest rates are high, inflation is high, and we don't have trust in the people managing our finances.
Do you think the tourism levies are here to stay now? Do you think that's just something that's going to keep creeping in? Are we going to become a bit like Europe?
I don't know. It's very interesting because what happens in the next general election? And the question, I don't know, because whoever gets in next time, well, it might be Labour, of course, but are they going to undo any of this stuff? Are they going to help us undo some of the business rates for hospitality? Are they going to reduce the ban? I don't know. So are they going, well, this is great, I'm going to cut the cost, but actually we're going to use that money to reduce the deficit?
I don't know. I'm dubious. Like, so sometimes friends will say to me, oh, well, if reform get in, they're going to scrap this, this, and this, and this. And I'm like, okay. And then a friend of mine says, well, no, I think I did hear Kemi Badenoch myself say that she will scrap business rate. But again, that just gets shuffled on to something else, doesn't it? It's going to get tagged off somewhere else.
Well, we do know, I don't know, well, we do know that the difference, well, the main difference between socialism and capitalism is the capitalists, so that's Conservative and Labour, is that the capitalists believe in a small state with the individuals paying for their way and the state doing as little as possible in terms of taking the money off you. Although that was questionable under the last, that didn't work, so they lost their way. But that is the theory of it. And we do know that socialists are about big state, so employing as many people as possible and looking after them. So it really is a choice. So if they are true conservatives, small c, and they look at it and they go, we're taking too much tax, 38-point-something% of GDP. We need to reduce that. That is what they should do, given their philosophy. But we shouldn't expect a socialist government to reduce.
No, I was listening to a podcast with a chap, and he said he's a marketing guy, actually, Rory Sutherland, and he said, let's imagine tomorrow reform get in. He goes, are they going to say, oh, we've only got 4 holiday days a year? Are they going to say we've now... they're not going to take away maternity leave. They're not going to take away... Everything that exists will carry on existing. And I feel like no government ever comes in afterwards and does that thing and says, well, you know that thing they instated, we're going to trim it back. They never sort of do that. And I think everyone has this vision that if reform comes in, that there will be a bit like the American Doge system that comes in and strips everything back. I just don't see that happening in the UK. I just don't. That's just me.
I choose to travel in hope.
Yeah.
I'm a short-term pessimist and a long-term optimist. It looks currently today like reform, and therefore we can only hope that they're going to do what they say. That they do what they say they can do. It's a long way, 3.5 years.
a lot can happen in 3.5 years. Yeah.
Exactly, and maybe Labour will get control of everything and make everything balanced, and we'll vote them in
a
again.
few people did say to me that maybe, just maybe, they're front loading a lot of this crap.
I have heard that.
And I get that logic, actually. I think I'm not sure if that was what Tony Blair did. I'm not sure, but I can't remember. They did compare it to somebody else who was in power not so long ago, and they said they come in, they front load all the crap, so hopefully by the time they get to election time, things are a bit rosier, the economy's on the up a bit, people start to forget about, once you have a few happy months, they forget about what they've been through.
So what you're saying, Stelios, is they're going to take the money off us to give it back later. Again, for me, that slightly has a slight whiff of I don't want to say dishonesty, but a lack of integrity.
Possibly that, yeah. I'm just trying to be optimistic too, I think. And and I think that, I'm a bit wet behind the ears when it comes to politics. Although I'm probably politically engaged, I'm not as much as most people. But
I'm trying to hold back because I'm very cross.
I'm getting that feeling. So,
if anyone wants to know my real politics, give me a call.
Yeah, but, it is one of those, and I've got Kate Nichols from UK Hospitality coming on tomorrow, and again, they're at the forefront. You can't agree. I don't disagree with anything they do, but I think I disagree with some of the people sitting on the sideline thinking, why haven't they fixed anything? I think government will do what government wants, and I think us expecting any organisation on the outside, whether it's National Building Association, whatever that association is that you're involved with, expecting to just go to government, knock on Downing Street, and say, "Oi, listen to me, fix it now."
Well, one might say though, Stelios, that they are doing exactly what 50% of the population want them to do,
and there's that true, yeah.
So it's just, but it's not. I don't know who's listening, but it's not us who have our houses on the line and work weekends, who are not employed, often by people and certainly by the state. I saw it, and it sounds as though you may have read similar articles around. I try and read two papers, a left-wing paper and a right-wing paper, to try and get a balance. It's absolutely impossible. But what this paper said, and I think it's a fact, is that 52% of the population are net takers from the government. Wow. That can't be sustainable.
No, I can't. It doesn't sound it to me. I'm not a mathematician, but it doesn't sound great. Yeah. But I'm the same as you. I try to get myself out of that negative bias where you only feed yourself this, So one thing I've been trying to listen to lately, at the bequest of my brother-in-law, is Rory and Alistair.
Yes. I listen to that.
And sometimes I listen to it and I just want to throw the phone. And I just think, well, what would your brother-in-law George say when he's told you to listen to this? And
it's great to listen to the other side of the argument.
And we've all got this tunnel vision, and we've got to break out of it. Otherwise, nothing gets better.
No.
But moving on though, because
moving on.
I want to come to the end of this thing, and purely because I don't want to end it on politics. But you talk about, a lot of the time you're quite strong. You and your sister seem to be really pushing forward. And in other articles, you spoke about resilience, stoicism. You've been talking about your weight loss journey.
Oh, well done, stoicism. I love stoicism.
Yes, give us like a specific example of how that really sort of gets you through what you do.
Yeah, well, stoicism, just to give a quick overarching view of the philosophy of stoicism, is that it's taking responsibility for everything you do that you can. Yeah. And there's a great book called The Little Book of Stoicism, and it tells you how they got there through.
I've got that over there.
It's brilliant, isn't it? Brilliant. And basically, it tells the story of William Tell. You'll know this, but if you excuse me, I'll just tell you. So William Tell obviously doesn't doff his cap to the bad sheriff, and then the sheriff, the sheriff has just put his hat up to be doffed off, and he doffed that. So he doesn't. He then gets arrested for not doffing his cap at what is just a hat. And then he's told he has to shoot an apple off his son's head, and he goes and practices. He prepares his bolt. He makes sure the feathers are perfect, that the bolt is going to fly true. He oils his crossbow. He practices and practices and practices until the day where it comes where his son is put up against the pillar in the centre of the town, an apple is placed on his head, and William Tell has to shoot it off. And at that point, William Tell is calm and collected. And the reason he's calm and collected, he's done everything he possibly can to get the right outcome. If something happens after the bolt is loose and leaves his crossbow, it's out of his control. So I know, interestingly, having heard that story out of that book, that I only get stressed when I know I haven't done everything I should have done, which happens more than it should. So basically, it's being your best self every day. I think they call it a rent, don't they? And so that and that follows through in your family life, your social life, and definitely in your business life. So that's stoicism. How does it impact? It means that I'm working I don't know what percent, a lot of the time at my optimal level because I care about mistakes and getting it right.
And I think I often say to people, failure to prepare is preparing to fail. And it sounds like I'm being cocky because there's a bit of a rhythm there. But, and there's a few others, there's like keep it simple. But I do think that there is a lack of preparation these days. And, we've all probably done it to some degree. But I think that you should really lose sleep. I know we all in business, you lose sleep about things that you can't control, but you do try and mitigate it with things that you can control. And that's really important to me.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm going to go back to stoicism. I think if you can get yourself to a point where everything that happens to you that you can't control is just stuff you can't control, and you can get happy with it. And I've kind of got to that point that if my business is, God forbid, failed and I end up living in a caravan somewhere, then as long as I've done everything I could have done, and it's high interest rates that take me out, or lockdown that takes me out, or a war that takes me out, it's not reasonable to hold me responsible for those things, I think. So I'm going to say, I don't know if you have a Whoop. I've got a Whoop. I bought it for my birthday by my girlfriend the other day. Another thing to try and keep me alive.
For those listening, I will just add some context there. Nothing's happening to Giles, and this podcast isn't going to kill him. But we were talking before about Giles trying to be more fit and lose weight, and I said, "What's your motivation?" You said to stay alive, and I thought that was a great answer.
Well, I think that is probably. I mean, that is it. You said then you read a book or heard a podcast about how do you see your life in your 70s and 80s, and that's the same thing. Even if you're alive, you want to be able to move around and have a nice life. But yes, on my Whoop, which is basically looks at your body all the time, it says that not my strain, but my stress is very, very low. Okay. Whereas my girlfriend, who doesn't actually work, is very, very high. So I think I've managed over the years to convince myself if I'm doing everything I can to the best of my ability, everything else is my fault.
It could also be that all your years in business have probably conditioned you as well.
Yes.
Like in a physical sense, when you see people that do like let's say Wing Chun, and they basically condition their hands by punching a bucket of sand. In a sense, you've sharpened yourself by being in business and going through the tough times. So, you've probably more conditioned to running a business than most, I guess.
That's true. But again, everyone listening will know when I was coming up in the lift to come into this office to do the podcast with you, my ops manager said, "Oh, I'd be so scared on a podcast." I said, "You wouldn't, because if you were on a podcast, they'd be talking about how you operate a building."
Yeah,
which you know everything about. So if you're doing stuff within your capability, which is running fish and chip shops or hotels or restaurants, if you're doing that and you know your stuff, you shouldn't be worried as long as you've done everything you possibly can.
Yeah, and my pitch to anybody coming on the podcast is, imagine we're two people in business that are sitting opposite each other on the train, and we just say to each other, how's business? What is your business? What is it you do? It's easier if it's two people from the fish and chip industry, but nonetheless, if you're curious about another person and you know your work and you know your job, what you do every day, it's not overly difficult at all. I think we think, oh my God, like I can't do that. But actually, it's just no different to sitting opposite somebody without a microphone, if I'm honest.
Oh, the podcast.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. Well, that's kind of. I do think that I'm just sitting talking to you.
Yeah, well, that's the idea, I guess. It's not
That is
for anybody listening. It's not a simulation. So what do you think for the listener, though? What's the toughest sort of leadership lesson that you've been through over the years?
Oh, my word,
Is
so
there that
many.
many?
Well, I would say the toughest one. I mentioned to you earlier that I set up my first business when I was 21, which was an estate agent in Northampton, and that after 15 years failed, and closing that down. And anyone who's gone through it was like a bereavement. I don't know if you've gone through a loss of a business after a long period of time. That was like a bereavement, and I, for years afterwards, had nightmares that I'd gone back into a state agency to try and put it all right. That was the worst thing, and then telling the staff that.
Do you think there's a bit of a stigma in the UK when it comes to bankruptcy? Because in America, it doesn't. Don't get me wrong. I'm sure it hurts, like you just said, that PTSD. But on a personal level, but it feels like people dust themselves off quicker over there and get back on with it. Whereas in the UK, and where my family's from in Cyprus, and I think I've always said Cyprus and the UK are very similar the way they think. I see so many similarities, but it feels like when someone goes bankrupt, it's like there's a stigma. You carry it with you.
I think you're absolutely right, but I think to a certain extent it's determined by how you go. I'm going to say to liquidation because I've never actually been bankrupt.
Okay, yeah, there is differences, of course.
Not personally. And I think it depends on whether you continue trading your business and taking suppliers' goods with a good chance that your business isn't going to survive. And I think if you then end up owing those small suppliers, any supplier, but particularly small suppliers, which impacts on their ability to pay their mortgage rates, I mentioned earlier, we have a responsibility to our suppliers. So I think if you go into liquidation having not played a good person, then you deserve the bad rep.
So if you're honourable, let's say,
honourable.
I remember there was a restaurant I follow on X, and just before last Christmas, they were taking restaurant Christmas bookings and selling vouchers, and then they closed for the Christmas. No, they closed just the week before Christmas, and all the comments were, "But you've closed, and you must have known this last week."
They knew. That's exactly what I'm talking about.
And that's why I mentioned it, because I feel like that is a bit dishonourable. And they were like, and then the person after the chef was like, well, you're going to get all your money back. And they're not going to, because who's going to do anything for the sake of 40 quid, 50 quid voucher or whatever it was? Like, it's just not going to happen, is it?
No.
So yeah, I get that completely, actually, that if you've done it in the most honourable way possible within your reason, nobody should ever be able to say, you did me. With multiple businesses that need you at once, how do you prioritise where your attention goes?
Good question. I bet we've talked about two, but I better add in the other ones. Because otherwise people go, well, it's only two bloody. I mean, you're busy, you're far busy. So hospitality again. I have a drink called a Gunner. Gunner came from Middle East. It's a refreshing gingers, bitters, lime, and it was always made by the bartender, and I put it in a tin. Nice. So that's one business. We also, because our offices needed good cleaning, we couldn't find good cleaning, set up a cleaning business, and now we clean 50 buildings in London. We've also recently set up an FM facilities management business, air conditioning, lifts, that sort of thing. Same reason, and I have a small resi development business. So how do I always employ the best people I possibly can, normally friends, to run those businesses.
So you do mix friendship and business then?
I do, absolutely. I think both sides have so much to lose. And I generally give that manager a shareholding in that business as well.
Do you think that old saying comes from don't mix family and friends and all that is probably because we just don't do it right?
I think that's exactly right. I mean, our business, my estate agency, which I said that failed, I was in business with one of my best friends. We're still best friends. Even though our stuff happened, without going into detail. But he's still my best friend. I'm godfather to his kid. We see each other all the time. I think there has to be forgiveness, as long as it's not wicked. than forgiveness.
I had
needs
a
to be.
best friend of mine work for me, and I said to him, "We'll only do it if you have to exit one day, we do it in a way that we never fall out." And he did
Yeah.
exit, and I still love him to bits, and we get on really well. But
Oh, good.
the TV chef Phil Vickery gave me a bit of advice once, and he said we get on quite well because we did a project together. And he says to me, "If we're going to go into business together, let's sit down and go through the prenup now." Yes, he goes. So he goes. We're not going to do this thing forever. He goes. So let's
Yeah.
figure out how we exit. And he goes, if we agree on the exit now, while things are happy and rosy, it makes the exit better. And we exited this thing we were doing together, and we're still mates. We meet up all the time. And he says because we followed the and it's just, I think we probably go into business thinking we shouldn't talk about negative things. We're going to be successful regardless. And then the first bump in the road, we're like calling each other things. So yeah, I do think that's really important. One last question I want to end on, I think this will be really good for listeners, is what part of your week is a non-negotiable? What are you carving out time for?
Oh my word.
There must be some thinking time there because you seem quite up to speed with a lot of things.
I do almost all my thinking in bed.
Okay.
So that might be it. I do lie in bed when perhaps I should be asleep, thinking about my problems. And the old adage where you go to bed with a problem, you wake up with the answer. My brain is bizarre the way it works. It does that. It takes it and cogitates. So I wake up and go, oh, okay, that must be the answer. Also, well, I guess time with family is a bit obvious. We're very, business, my sister keeps saying, we're very family orientated. That might be our mid-European roots, I don't know. But we often have Sunday lunch together. We often have dinners together. I go and see my mother regularly for a coffee whenever I can. I like to see my kids, even though, of course, they're growing up and they much prefer to be somewhere else. So that's a non-negotiable. If I can be with my family, that includes my girlfriend, if you're listening. If I can be with my family, then that will take precedence over pretty well everything.
And do you find that when you're with family, and let's say it's with your sister, and you've got a mixed family thing going on, do you find you talk about work?
Yes.
Yeah, because I remember someone once saying to me, "Oh, yeah, we try and never talk about business at home over dinner." And I remember a friend of mine who's very successful. He's got quite a few very large fish and chip shops. He's got a pier in Scarborough. He's now got like a Five Guys franchise up there.
Wow.
And he's a really nice guy when you're not on the other side of him. When he's not angry, he's great. But I remember him saying, "We always talk business. If that's a problem, everyone can F off. I don't care." He goes, "This business pays for the food everyone's eating." He's really intense. He goes, he goes, "I say to everybody, this business we talk about pays for the food. If you don't like it, F off." And I'm like, "All right, mate, chill out."
I try not to get too boring about it. I mentioned that my kids want to set up their own business in the future. Not yet. My mother founded the serviced office industry in the UK. Nikki and I are in business. My girlfriend has been when she was working an analyst. So she my mother loves me when Nikki and I are talking, just listening to the business and how it's evolving. So I don't apologise for that in the family, although we try not. We do talk about things. I love rugby, I love sailing, I love golf, I love eating out, and I love politics.
Yeah, there you go.
All of your advice. So we do talk about other things.
My dad had a stroke, but he was in fish and chips, all the business, all his life, and some rental properties that he had. And if me and my brother are talking, he absolutely loves it because he misses that conversation.
Yes.
And you can take your mother out of the situation, but you can't change that in somebody.
No. How old's your father?
He's only 67, 68.
He's young. Yeah, my mother's 87. Yeah. And actually, we still go to her for some sage counsel.
Yeah. That's good. Well, on that note, I've learnt a lot, and I can't wait to meet you in person. And just thank you for your time today, Giles.
Well, it's been delightful, Stelios, and obviously you're very good at this. You make it really easy to talk to you.
But I do the best I can.
Well, it's very good.
Oh, have a great day. And that's a wrap for today's episode with Giles from Burgh Island Hotel. Now, if this episode hit home, do 3 quick things. Subscribe to the Ceres podcast. leave a review, and send this episode to a hospitality operator. These small differences make a huge difference. Have a great day, and thank you for listening to the Ceres podcast.